What if the life, the success that you have been building for decades just isn't doing it for you anymore? Are you 47? Are you 50, 61? You've just realized that everything that you thought you wanted by this point in your life actually doesn't feel aligned at all with who you are. Have you felt that recently? Have you felt like life is a little bit heavy and the future is a little bit blurry? And there's so much noise about AI and what you should be doing and how you should be incorporating it, but you don't even know if it's right for you at this point. And is it too late to start using AI? So you're not having a breakdown. You're just at a crossroads trying to figure out what is now aligned with who you are. And if you're somewhere in that midlife range, 50s, like I am, it can be hard. And it can be hard to know what is the right path forward. If this feels like you, this is the episode for you today. And I hope that you will join me because I'm going to share real stories with you, both of my own and of my coaching clients. And I will never be specific, but I will tell you that you're not the only one going through this right now. You're not alone. And there are answers. There are solutions. And I'm going to give you some questions that are going to help you figure out what you truly want to be doing right now, where you should be, could be, or where you want to be next year, in the next 2 years, in the next 5 years. How does that sound? So welcome back, everyone, to a Mindset Medicine podcast. I am your host, Katharine Loucaidou. And if you're new to this show, I coach ambitious human beings who sometimes hit a point in life where they just need a shift. They need a change because what used to drive them forward just doesn't do it for them anymore. So we talk about business. We talk about your identity. We talk about visibility or invisibility. We talk about health and wellness because when we get to this midlife point, I think it's extremely important because as we move forward, that is where things in our health start to peek up their little head and say, hey, guess what? I'm going to throw this at you this week. So we're going to talk about all of that. And I don't want you to just survive anymore. I want you to thrive. And sometimes we can get locked into this headspace and a situation in life where we're just going through the motions. Like it's just another day. And I'm just going to go and do what I have to do. But I'm going to tell you why that is going to bite you back. And it's not the way that you want to move forward. Trust me on this. So I'm going to start with a little bit of my story. And if you have been following me along, I'm not going to go into detail, but I am going to tell you that I had a full-on 360-degree reinvention when I was 33 years old. I had suffered a massive heart attack at 33. I had a 2.5-year-old. I had a 7-year-old. There was nothing wrong with me. And as I was going to bed one night, I had a massive heart attack. I almost didn't make it. And I know that because as my husband was racing me to the hospital in his car at 11 o'clock at night, I remember looking over at him and I said, I'm going now. And he was like, you're not going anywhere. And I said, I can feel myself going. And I could. And it is the strangest, I don't even want to go there. I'm not going to describe it, but it's a very unique feeling when life is coming. Your life is escaping you. So if that didn't kill me, which it didn't, I then had subsequent heart attacks while I was in the hospital that first week. They couldn't stabilize me. By the grace of God, somehow by the end of that week, my body started to stabilize after all of the medication they had been giving me all week started to work. They then determined I had to have triple bypass surgery. A week after I had been released from the hospital, I had a minor stroke. And then it is a tough recovery from that. So I survived not only what could have killed me from the massive heart attack and the subsequent heart attacks, but also the triple bypass surgery and then the minor stroke. And on this goes. I survived each one of them. Seem to have an issue with something's happened. Okay. Sorry, people. My friends, I have everything going wrong with technology today. I don't know what all of a sudden has happened that I am in full. My computer has decided to put me in full Zoom mode. How appropriate. I'm on Zoom. So I'm just going to back up so I don't scare you because my face is so big now. For those of you listening, I apologize, but if you're watching this on YouTube, you'll see what I mean. It's like all of a sudden my screen just enlarged on me. So here's what I was saying. What hit me harder than going through this surgery and recovery was this story playing back in my head that kept saying, okay, Katharine, well, what now? Now, what are you going to do? So life has shaken you up to no end. You thought you were living this healthy, wonderful life. Obviously, something went wrong somewhere. So how do we fix this? What do we do next? And I'll tell you the biggest question on my mind was, I cannot take this second life I've been given for granted, or let's call it fourth life. If you were to say that after every episode that happened in that hospital, I probably shouldn't even be here, but I am. So what do I do with my life now? How do I move forward? How do I make an impact in this world? Because I remember being in the hospital and having a conversation with God and saying, please save me, and I will do whatever I can to live the best life, the very best version of myself. I thought to myself, if I survive all of this and I don't live life to the fullest, then how have I shown my appreciation for this gift I've been given to watch my children grow up? And so at 33, I rebuilt how I was living, what I was doing, my mindset, the physical, psychological, emotional, spiritual part of me. I rebuilt it all because I believed that a different version of Katharine was needed now. And so that's what I did. And it's interesting because now in my early 50s, next year will be 20 years. January will be 20 years since I had my heart issues and the open heart surgery. And I've had side effects, after effects, every kind of effect in the last 20 years as a result of that surgery. But I'm here and I've managed to overcome all of it. But now in my 50s, I've started to ask deeper questions. And I'm wondering if you have as well. Not about strategy going forward. Like, what do I do? You know, I have accomplished a lot because I forced myself to accomplish a lot, always going for the next level. Like, how can I level up myself? Not really looking at other people, but how do I become the best version of myself? And every time I hit a milestone, I would say, well, that's great, but now how can I do it even better? Do you start questioning who you are? Have you been attached to the job that you've been doing for the last 20 years, 15 years, even 10 years? Do you associate yourself with that job, that position? And if you were no longer doing that job, if AI, as it is right now, continues to become as powerful as it is, and even more so, and does start to make some positions in life, in our working environments, irrelevant because it can take over that capacity, where does that leave you? Have you questioned that for yourself? Have you questioned the fact that after the last 15 or 20 years that you've been doing a job, maybe you've outgrown that version of yourself and that's not what you want to be doing anymore? Has that crossed your mind? If it has, you are not alone. So I'm going to share some of these stories that I've had with my coaching clients. And it's fascinating because everyone goes through their own reinvention in different ways and what that looks like and feels like. So the first one I'm going to call going from invisible to visible. This particular gentleman spent the last 30 years behind the scenes in his industry, behind a desk, working on strategy, working on workflow. He was high-level manager. He was the go-to guy in his very large corporate environment. He was well known for his wisdom in the office, in the environment, and even in the industry. He was quiet. He was respected. But after attending a conference, he has started noticing that even these colleagues who have the same positions as he does, maybe in other companies, were taking selfies. They were posting the conference. They were posting themselves at the conference and so on. So on one of our first calls, he said, everyone is posting selfies. They go live. They're sharing their wins. He said, I literally have never posted on social media. Do I need to start doing that now? Because he said, Katharine, honestly, I really don't want to. I don't want to be taking selfies. I don't want to be doing any of these silly things that I see people doing. I feel like that's just not who I am. So what I explained to him is that visibility as we move forward in this AI world is going to be extremely important. Being searchable is going to be extremely important. Being visible online doesn't mean you have to show off, doesn't mean you have to act silly. You can be authentically yourself. You can post thought leadership. You can post what's on your mind. You can post what you're working on. It doesn't have to be silly TikTok videos of dancing or anything like that. You don't have to cry. This is one of my things is I see so many people emotionally break down on these live videos. And I think to myself, I barely do that in real life. I'm certainly not going to do it on a video, but that is how other people choose to showcase themselves. Visibility isn't about performance. It's about presence, reminding people that you're there, showing people your value, your knowledge, and being memorable for that is important to you. So that was that individual. And he was almost giving a sigh of relief after I told him that. So this second individual is in his 60s and he's in finance, working on the other side of the world. And his job had ended. He had moved back home to his country in Europe. But here's what he left that country with. He felt as though he had been brainwashed into thinking that at the age of 60, he was now washed up. There was nothing for him because he had reached the age that they felt you should no longer be in the workforce. That's a hard pill to swallow. When you're 60 and you feel like you're in your prime, you've got all this experience and wisdom, and you're being told that you're basically washed up and of no use anymore. So here he was feeling lost, and he reached out to me. So one of the things that I feel I need to do is to help change and shift people's perspectives. And so that's what I did. I explained to him that the perspective that people have in that country does not reflect the perspectives and mindsets of people in every country around the globe. So the only thing we need to do is find other areas and locations that actually appreciate his knowledge and experience. And that, in turn, could translate into becoming a fractional CFO, a shift in perspective, understanding that sometimes we can be in environments that, I am going to use the word brainwash, because we can feel like that's just how life is. Apparently, I'm done at the age of 60, when that really wasn't the case for him. It was just in that particular environment. So mapping out a new course for him, mapping out a new way forward, I could see his eyes started to open a little bit. I could see his energy started to change because he understood that there is actually hope for him. He's not at the end of his road. He was just in the wrong environment. Here's my third story. And this is a lady who had been in automotive, basically the auto design industry. And for the last 25 years, she had been working for other companies. Very talented lady. She didn't really post online. Now, this is not a social media episode. However, if you've noticed the pattern, there seems to be a pattern of people realizing at a certain point in their life that all those years that they weren't on social media, maybe they should have been, because now they have a visibility issue. They also have an identity issue of, who am I now when I shift from this position and now I go to something different? So she decided to shift from working in companies, large companies, to becoming an entrepreneur. What does that mean? That means that you no longer have a company resource to rely on, and now you are creating your own resources as an entrepreneur. It's scary, but it's very fulfilling. So what I explained is that you now have a company, and so we are going to create what we call a go-to-market strategy. It's what we do for a startup business, and we need to start quickly unveiling visibility. We're here. This is us. And you start showing the different things that you do, how you do it, what it is that you do, maybe a little background on yourself. And then that becomes your new content moving forward. And slowly people begin to sit up and realize, oh, well, this is fascinating. So visibility and identity, when you are in this shift of not knowing what you want to do, are really important. But before that shift, you have to know what direction you want to be moving in. So let's move on to part 3 now, which is like a little bit of why is it that midlife feels like this wake-up call for people? And you know, sometimes it starts like it did for me at 33. You don't have to be midlife being 50. My wake-up call was due to a health crisis. Your wake-up call may be due to your life being overhauled. Maybe you've been married and that is now ending. And now you're moving on to a different chapter, but it all looks so different. Another reinvention that I had after 33 was at 35 to 36, changing countries again. So at 22, I moved to Europe. At 35, 36, I moved back to Canada from Europe. So now starting all over again. So another reinvention. Well, who do I want to be in Canada? What do I want to do in this country? Because guess what? You don't have to fall back into what you were doing before. You can step into something new. Courage, belief in yourself and your abilities and the skills that you've developed. That's what it's all about. So if this is you right now, and you feel like you're going through this shift, this change in mindset where what you're doing just doesn't feel like you anymore. You feel drawn to other things, but you don't know exactly what that looks like. This is what I want you to know. You're not broken. You're not falling behind. You're not reversing, moving backwards in life. What you're feeling is actually backed by real research. So there is an economist named David Blanchflower, and he talks about the U shape of happiness. And believe it or not, that bottom part of the U, that's you right now. And you're just in a pause. You're just not sure what do I do? Where do I go from here? What's the right next move for me to go right back up to that other U-shaped again? MIT Sloan shows that mid-career leaders are most likely to feel disoriented in the face of change, especially with the speed of AI and digital shifts. So we know this, we've seen this. And it's not only midlife career, it's also people in their 30s and 40s. Nobody really knows the extent to how much AI they need to learn, the extent of how important AI is going to be in our lives. What I can tell you with the AI topic is that it will be extremely important to you. It is evolving so quickly right now, and it is improving immensely to the point where every week there is something new that is being unveiled. There is a new powerful mode that you can be using in ChatGPT, for example. Each AI company is trying to outdo the other. And so therefore, where we should have been 2 years from now, we're already almost there. So everything has sped up. And if you're not following along, if you are not starting to use some of these AI tools, you will inevitably get left behind. So as an aside, I have done many AI episodes where you can start using some of these tools in your emails. You can use ChatGPT, everything. And I literally mean everything. I have done some episodes where I give you the prompts, how to speak to AI, because the better the prompt you create, the better the information you receive. So let's get back in this. Neuroscience tells us that after the age of 45, brains begin prioritizing meaning over performance. Isn't that interesting? Over the age of 45, our brains begin prioritizing meaning over performance. So you're not having a midlife crisis. You're just no longer willing to be someone you're not. That's what this is about. So this next part, I want to talk about 5 questions that will begin to shift everything for you and put things into a clearer perspective. Number 1, ask yourself, what am I no longer willing to tolerate? That's a really good question, because sometimes we've been going through the last 20 to 30 years just tolerating behavior, tolerating people, tolerating our jobs, and we don't realize that we have choices. You can make changes. They're just not comfortable until they are. Number 2, which version of me have I been performing? And which version of me have I been hiding? That's powerful. Let's go through that again. Which version of me have I been performing? And which version of me have I been hiding? Do you water yourself down for people? Have you learned to perform as a certain character in your life and you're just tired of it? Are you the person who is the giver to everyone? You're there to help at a moment's notice, but sometimes you turn around and you say, there doesn't seem to be anyone who's willing to help me. Number 3, what truth am I afraid to say out loud? Do you have a truth within you that you have believed for all these years? Or maybe you're just understanding what that truth is now, and you really are afraid to speak it and say, I am a different person. I don't feel like myself anymore. I need some clarity. I need help moving forward. It's okay to do that. Number 4, if I weren't afraid of looking foolish, what would I try tomorrow? If I weren't afraid of looking foolish, what would I try tomorrow? Number 5, what part of me is quietly dying for a second act of life? What part of me is quietly dying for a second act of life? What does that mean? It means you know that there is this exciting next chapter that you would love to get to, but you are holding yourself back because you don't have a clear path forward. Do you want to start your own business? Do you want to change your career? Do you want to go back to school and get another degree? Do you want to move countries? What is it that you truly feel called to do, but you feel foolish because maybe you think you're too old to do this at this point? I'm going to tell you right now, you're not. The way that our health and medical system is today, you have the opportunity to create longevity in your life, to remain healthy, but there are choices that have to be made. Choices in your food, in moving your body, in keeping your mind so open and strong and healthy. But these are all things that we have to work at, and we have to be intentional about them. There is no AI who will help us at this point, possibly in 10 years from now, but not right now. Right now, there are still the choices that you need to make for yourself. And that is how you will keep yourself living longer, healthier. Take it from me, who's been through so many different things, health crises, many times over. But what gets me through each time is making sure that my mindset and my purpose in life, what is my purpose? It is to keep becoming the next best version of myself and not afraid to look foolish and take risks. So let's be a little more real and specific. You do not need a 5-year plan right now, today. You don't need that. You just need momentum. 3 things that you can do starting this week. Number 1, start naming it out loud for yourself. So, I'm successful, I'm stuck, but I'm ready to figure it out. Say it out loud. If you have a dream for your next chapter in life, say it out loud. This is what I want. Now I'm going to figure out how I'm going to get it. No longer has to be a quiet dream of yours anymore. Number 2, choose one small test for yourself. So if you feel like you are missing visibility online, create a post when you normally wouldn't. Create a type of post that you normally wouldn't do. Record a video, post a quote, and then say why that resonates with you. Create a piece of content that is more you than you would normally do. Just show the world who you truly are. Try something that will move you into the direction that you really want to go, that you truly want to be in. Maybe it is a change of career. Start exploring what that looks like. Maybe it is moving country. Start researching what that looks like. But just sitting around, not making any step or action toward that direction, that's what's holding you back. That's what's keeping you stuck. As long as you are in motion, that feeling of stuck, that heavy feeling of I don't know what to do, it will start to shift, because once you start moving toward ideas and curiosity, everything begins to change. Number 3, reclaim 1 hour a week, not for chores, not for cooking dinners, but for your own growth. So read something you wouldn't normally read. Read something bold. Read a topic that you don't normally read about. Listen to a podcast outside of your normal comfort zone. Listen to something that you know nothing about, simply because it's so good to start ingesting new content during the middle of your life. I am a huge proponent that you are never too old. I will say this when I'm 80, if I'm still doing this podcast, but I do want you to know that you are not too old to begin doing something new. Take it from someone who has reinvented herself multiple times. And the more often you do it, the more comfortable you become with it. Finally, you are not too old, you are not too late, and you are too important to stay invisible. You are not stuck. You are ready to start exploring what your new chapter looks like. You just need to start. That's all. If this episode speaks to you, or you know that it would speak to a friend of yours or a relative or a colleague, share it with them. Let them hear some of my insights, my research, my own clients that I've helped through. Maybe something will resonate and move them in the direction to where they truly want to be. If you would like help, and if you don't want long-term help, but you want one clarity call with me, that's possible as well. Go over to my website, katharineloucaidoucoaching.com, or just go to the link below and set up a call with me. I'm here to help you figure out where you are now, where you want to go, and how to bridge the gap between the two of them. Because that's really the hard part, is creating the bridge. And that's what I do best. If you know someone who is quietly feeling stuck, tell them to hop onto this podcast. They can go through some of the previous episodes. They're not alone in what they're thinking right now. So many people are wondering, is this what I want to be doing for the rest of my life? Sometimes one conversation can change everything.